This video might be pretty long, or I'm gonna have to cut a lot of things.
I liken it to like if you're a kid and you're in your room and you're playing, with toys and and you have this world going on.
Yes.
The moment when your mom opens the door and says, Andre, that world kind of stops.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So once the attention is on that world,
yes,
the world goes away. So you got to find a way to get back to that place to where you can build those worlds again.
The only thing that's changed is your point of view, really.
Yes, I do realize that.
Nothing else has changed. And that is within your control.
Your awareness is the one thing that you can call your own that nobody else has. You have to pay attention to where you put your attention. And if you pay attention to it, you'll find it's kind of surprising. You have to treat your attention and your awareness as the most valuable thing in the world, because it really is.
All right, I'm finally getting to it. I'm making a video with a Lego set in it, but as you could probably tell from the intro, it's not just that. But first, the Lego set. So this is the Porsche 911. One of the big reasons I bought this, other than just for fun and me loving Legos, is because this is supposed to help me practice creating worlds again. So what do I mean when I say I want to create worlds again, or practice that at least? Well, as you saw in the intro, I've been kind of thinking about this ever since I watched Andre 3000's interview with Rick Rubin, where Andre talked about trying to build worlds again. For him, that's creating music. We all create worlds, especially, when we're younger. It's just kind of that simplicity of imagining, coming up with things, having this sort of world on the back of our eyes, playing out some cool fantasy, some interesting idea, or dreaming up what we want to do with our lives, dreaming up what we want the world to be, what we want to see in our future, what we could see in our future. I feel like I've lost that simplicity and ability in a lot of ways to just sit and imagine and create a world in my head. And that's something that kind of cripples life's experience. Being able to imagine, being able to create, having cool stories play out in your head, having cool ideas. You can just kind of augment your own reality into something much more exciting, and through that you can come up with really valuable ideas, really valuable perspectives, and it's also just a fun time. Not every time, when I'm just sitting here building a Lego or something, am I coming up with some revolutionary thought. Maybe I'm, running some fun story through my head, but something that entertains me, something that, takes me away from just sitting and looking at this thing as a piece of plastic and looking at this floor as some carpet and just, the things right in front of our eyes. I'm looking at something bigger, something more exciting. And I think that's a really important practice. I think that ability to create, the ability to imagine, the ability to extend the physical things that are right in front of our eyes into something more, into something that's different, that we haven't seen before, that can't physically exist or doesn't yet. I think that's what makes humans special. I think that's what makes our life special, is that we have that ability to create beyond, to think beyond what's in front of us. All right, so why has it gotten harder to create worlds, to build worlds in my head. I think it's something that happens to a lot of us, you know, as we get busier, we have more things we got to worry about and more things you want to run through your head and try to figure out and try to find any sort of way to de-stress yourself by like coming up with a solution. But most of the time that's not really there. It's just kind of useless thoughts that you're not controlling. I think it also gets discouraged just by the world around us. We're supposed to, I don't know, to an extent grow up. And I think a lot of you heard people and probably idolized people saying things like, oh, never grow up. I think most people kind of like the idea of that, but don't feel like they can follow through on that, because the reality is the world around us makes it seem like we should grow up. We should, you know, just be focused on, you know, the real world. We should be focused on what we can actually do, or something like that. And dreaming and coming up with fun, exciting, weird ideas is uncomfortable and is, you know, a waste of time or something like that. So I think it kind of gets taught out of us. So yeah, as I've gotten older and busier, dreaming has gotten less and less encouraged, it feels like. So one of the ways I noticed I was losing this ability to create worlds is something I always did as a kid and try to do now still. Something that, I don't know, just a habit of mine, how I would fall asleep is I would create a story in my head. Something, you know, typically pretty cliche, nothing revolutionary. But I guess essentially I was telling myself a bedtime story. It'd be of some sort of adventure, something, I don't know, something exciting, something that entertained myself as I, you know, laid there and fell asleep. But more and more recently, I've either found that I forgot to try to do that and would just let myself sit there and, you know, think about things until I unexpectedly fell asleep, you know. But also I noticed I would be like, all right, let's make a story. Let's think of something, right? But I'd get distracted. It was too much work to think about some new story because I would get distracted and try to, you know, I needed to think about something else that was going on in the world, kind of help myself figure out, oh, this is what I need to get done tomorrow. This is what I need to blah, 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 all that stuff. I was just so busy and still am, you know, so busy that my own head didn't let me come up with a story. I was too preoccupied. That's how I think we get trained out of it, is not that something's telling us not to be creative. It's that we feel like we are too busy to be creative, or that we have too much stuff to worry about, too much stuff to think about to be creative. And I don't like that. I don't think it's necessarily true. And I didn't like that was happening to me and still is happening to me. And so I was like, I need to figure out a way to fix this. I want to have that creativity. I want to be able to not just be running through random thoughts at night of all the different things I might be worried about or have to get done in the day. And so how do I fix that? And that's where the Andre 3000 podcast and the little snippet from Stacy Peralta sort of come in. Is I just kind of realized I needed something else that I could focus my attention on to practice building worlds. And that's what this is. This is meant to be a way to, well, it's an excuse to have a video on a topic I felt like was interesting, that's for sure. But it's also a way to practice building a world, because it's really easy as a kid, or at least I remembered it feeling easy as a kid. You get some toy, or for me a lot of times a Lego set, and you build it, and while you're building it you create a story in your head. Or I basically recognize that a lot of times toys, the important part of a toy isn't what's physically there. It's not the physical plastic, it's not the whatever it is. The important part of a toy to a kid is that it was a way to let them jump into something exciting, something creative, something entertaining, right? And so when I was realizing I was having trouble creating worlds and being imaginative, what better way to kind of kick that off again than to get myself a toy, to use it in the same exact way a kid would, to sort of bring that back. And so that's what this is. That kind of takes us into, I briefly mentioned Stacy Peralta and that snippet that you saw at the beginning of the video, because that's another piece. I've been talking about losing this creativity, sitting there thinking so much about all these other random things in life, trying to reduce stress or whatever. Lots of times that's not very constructive. As Stacy Peralta says, the most important thing in life that you have is your awareness, your attention, and being able to focus that is really important. And so I noticed, I think there's this kind of like lie that we tell ourselves, that being able to think through our problems, and me laying there at night thinking, oh, I need to get this done tomorrow, or this, blah blah blah, all that crap. We tell ourselves, oh, that's important, we're getting things done, we're doing big important things, and this is where our attention should be, because that's how we get these important things done. And really that's not the case. The reason why I think creating worlds is so important is because, as I mentioned some already, is it's how you come up with new ideas. It's how you progress in the world. And so, lying to myself or to ourselves about, being able to focus on, what I need to get done tomorrow or whatever is super important, and blah 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 blah. And the fact of the matter is it's not. And if we spent more time focusing our attention on something creative and dreaming up new things, dreaming up important things, we would probably let ourselves leave the world in a better place a lot more frequently. We would probably come up with a lot more important, a lot more exciting things, instead of just really having all of our thoughts be stuck in something not something super productive. And this has been quite the ramble. We'll see if that gets me anywhere in editing. But yeah, where we place our attention is incredibly important, and it should be placed more in creativity and imagination and dreams than just, I need to get this done tomorrow, I need to do that tomorrow, and just repeating that over and over and over in our heads. It's important, yes, to know what you need to get done tomorrow. It's important, yes, to make sure you're in the right spot to do that. But that's only to an extent, and then you got to be able to switch to coming up with new things, cooler things, more important things. Yeah, so some of our attention should be placed on creating worlds. I think creating worlds and thinking beyond what's just right in front of us is some of our advantage as humans. Like I already mentioned, I think it's a really important thing, because it's how we evolve and become better, because we think of a new way to be better. We think of a new way to solve a problem. We think of a new way to see the world. And so, yeah, we shouldn't be afraid to create worlds. And really, the pressure, like I already mentioned, isn't really from somebody else not wanting you to be creative, or not wanting you to have an active imagination. I mean, most people probably would think that someone with an active imagination as an adult, or as a older person, or whatever, is really cool. I mean, it's really interesting. It can be really exciting, and I don't think the pressure we put on ourselves is by ourselves. You know, I don't think there's actual pressure not to be creative. It's just we let ourselves be busy, and we let ourselves wander in thoughts instead of being controlled. And so I think all it really takes is learning like this, or through this video, or by thinking about it more and cementing that value more. So learning to let yourself be creative, and to stop yourself from just thinking, just waste thoughts repeating in your head. And yeah, it's a practice, and that's, like I've said, that's what this is for. It's a practice in not doing that. It's a practice in control and in self-betterment. And I think I don't think that's something that I actually would need to be worried about other people judging or thinking is weird. I don't really think that the world around us doesn't want us to imagine. I think that's something we put on ourselves. So a bit of a change in perspective, and a bit of practice that cements a value that I think is important, and that's all you really need. So yeah, right now I'm trying to change my point of view. I'm trying to focus on building worlds, being creative. I'm attempting to use this to help stimulate that and help push that forward. I think if I'm able to do that well, I can help make the world a better place, but have a more vibrant experience doing it. I can have a more creative attack at doing that, and probably at the end of the day, I will have a more effective route at doing that. Okay, well that's that. That's a good set. Now I guess I'll review it a little bit. I like the build process on this. I liked it a lot. There are a couple things that I wasn't a huge fan of. There's like one misprint in the book that I noticed. It's also kind of interesting since you get to choose between the Targa and the Turbo, which obviously I chose the Turbo. There's a whole section of pieces that you just don't use, which while I like the autonomy to choose, it does kind of seem like I wasted a little bit of money there. So I don't really know how I feel about that. But I do like that you could choose, and in theory I could, change it around if I wanted to every once in a while. But looks itself, I like the look a lot. It's got a really nice hinge here without much of a gap, which is good. Not a ton of other like really super notable features. It's got a couple interesting ways of doing the steering, and it has its nice engine features in the back, and I think you can open up the front here too. Yeah, you can open it there, and you could set in the like soft top when you have the target, if that's what you did. But yeah, it looks really nice. I like it for the most part. There's a bit of like, you can kind of see the blockiness in there, and there's just a lot of the little pieces, so it really kind of, it has a bit of a jagged look there, which I get to get the nice door hinge, and it's not too big of a deal or too much of a issue, but you know, that's just kind of nitpicky, but I liked it quite a bit. Hopefully this video turns out decently well. I just kind of rambled a lot. I technically had a script, but I didn't really stick to it, so we'll see if I can save it in editing. I have no idea if I'll actually be able to. Don't have super high hopes for the video, but hopefully it was an interesting topic. Hopefully you enjoyed the Lego set part of it. Hopefully throughout the editing process and part of like making this video, I'll help kind of cement the whole idea of creating worlds and work on that more. And that's really the point of the video, really the point in a lot of respects of this channel. So yeah, I hope you're doing well, and Legos are fun.